loud now. All right. Okay, y'all. We're going to start a scallop top sock. Now, you do have to be pretty good with your ribber. This is a ribbed sock. I do have a sample. So,
remove the audio back there.
oh, it is quite a bit delayed. Oh, it went away. It's not on there anymore.
Hold on.
Okay, while they're figuring that out. Alrighty. So the way we're going to start this sock is we are going to take out, this is a 64 cylinder I'm using, and I want it to be a 3x1 rib. And we're going to just take out all those needles to make the right gaps for our ribber needles. And what this is going to do is I really like when it looks like stealth ribbing, you know, like it looks like normal little, it's very delayed. Okay, so hooja, stealth ribbing. So fun. Okay, so if you look at the little top of the sock, it's got these little scallops, and how that does is it we are gonna start with an E wrap, and then we're gonna go around 2 more times until there are 3 bars across the gaps in my cylinder. And then those 3 bars are all gonna go on the ribber needles. And then when the ribber comes along and knits, it's gonna take all 3 bars and it's gonna squish them down, squish. And then these knit stitches didn't get any squishing action at all. So that's why they're tall, and that's why these little things are squished. And that is what makes the cute little scallop, okay? So first we're gonna get all our ribber needles out, and we're gonna start with an E-wrap. Did I miss any? Nope. Y'all having a good time here at the conference? Yes. Good. I'm very nervous. Okay.
So it's 3x1?
It is a 3x1. Starting with my waist yarn. I missed one. It's like we're in the movie theater now. Good. All right, I'm stopping right at my 3 o'clock mark.
Did you say 3 o'clock?
3 o'clock. I always start and stop at 3 o'clock. Now I'm going to put in my fishing line. If I can find it, it's see-through and therefore invisible. I found it. I got a piece of braided fishing line from a lady at a Crank-In in January, and it has not broke. This isn't that one. I left that one at home. But I got to say, the braided fishing line is a great little separator, ripcord. Yeah. Thank you. Is it not clear? Oh, great.
And if you're going to use it, use at least 80-pound test.
Oh, where's my lifter? I think she got 50-pound, and it wasn't. I might not have brought my lifter. Okay. All right, so I stopped here at 6 o'clock because we're gonna raise our needles. My fishing line is still going. We're gonna raise our needles starting again at that 6 o'clock, exactly where I started. I'm not starting exactly at 3 o'clock. My 3 needles are straddling my 3 o'clock mark. I'm just starting right before, okay? We're not gonna be that picky. As long as we get them all. So we're lifting and we're making sure those latches are open. Okay, so my ripcord is all in. We're gonna keep lifting needles. This is my very favorite sock. I make this sock so much. I'm a little, a one-note girl a little bit. I'm a little bit of a one-note girl. All right, we're gonna get everything in there. We're gonna get my sock yarn. Now I use a soft weight because when I started, I had a vintage machine and it didn't come with any weights at all. So I had to make mine. And then I bought my Erlbacher after I was ready to throw that GD thing out the window. and I just was used to my soft weight. So that's still what I use. I like to put my soft weight in on top of my project yarn. So it kind of anchors it right there. I like that. And now we're going to start our E-wrap. What I like to do is, the real trick is to make sure there's not too much slack over here. All this yarn, too much, we don't want that. We're going to grab it. We're going to keep it kind of minimal yarn. And then I put my finger right at the base to hold the yarn because we don't want that yarn coming up and messing with our latches, okay? This is what I do for any time I E-wrap. So I'm going to put my finger here and wrap, hold it and wrap, hold it and wrap. And see how this is getting loose and it's getting in my way? I'm just going to grab it and just kind of pull it tight. And we don't want to E-wrap it too tight, but we don't want it loose either, okay? That wasn't right. So it's kind of weird how you kind of go across the span of 2 needles when you wrap. That feels weird, but it's all good. You just want one little wrap. It makes a little cursive ease. That's why they call it an E-wrap. So we're going to wrap all our needles and see how we have a little bar of yarn that goes across our gap here. That's important to our scallop top. I'm holding the yarn down at the base. Do, 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 do.
All right, so how many crazy things like this are there in the sock knitting world? The machines like an E-wrap, I've never even heard of it.
Well, there are some selvage. So this is a selvage. A selvage, if you're a sewer, a selvage means that piece of the fabric where the edge is finished off. It's not going to unravel. A selvage, oh my gosh, you guys, look at that. I lost a stitch. Was that down the whole time?
No, I think it just went down.
Just went down? Okay, we're just going to wrap around it. One needle, I think, is not. I actually dropped 2 needles last night doing one of my socks. And we're just going to, y'all cross your fingers for me. Mm-hmm. Thoughts and prayers. Thoughts and prayers. So a selvage is a finished edge. And like this one makes sense to me. Like you see a little loop and that's going to knit through that loop. That's not going to unravel. I can visualize that in my head. It makes sense to me. But man, some of those ribber selvages, like one in, one out, and then do the hokey pokey. And I don't know, it doesn't even make sense to me. It's like magic. It's like magic words. So, there's probably a ton. There's probably a ton that we haven't heard of that are in the vintage books. But an E-wrap, it's pretty common. I think an E-wrap is a pretty common selvage to do. And you can do it on ribbed. You can do it anytime.
There's a latch that's.
Thank you. You are a gift. We don't want any latches closed. All right, so where's a closed latch?
I think you got it.
I got it. Okay, good. All right, so every stitch has got a wrap. And see how it looks over here? It looks like it's not going to work. And also, when you do that last when you do the last needle, sometimes you're like, Did I already do it? Is it twice? Because it looks weird. It looks kind of like it's twice, but it's not, because this yarn is going to come across. We're going to lower these down. Now watch what happens. All the weirdness goes away. Get it down you want it down at the base. And I'm just holding it kind of taut, but not too taut. So see how it all resolved? We're all good there. Let's lower the rest of these down.
Oh, we got closed latches.
Close latches. Where? I think we're good. Okay. So I'm going to just keep holding this.
Yeah.
First round. You guys, I have another drop stitch over here. It's that bad word fishing line, because I can't see it and therefore I can't tell. So I'm just going to keep going. I'll have to frog this when we're all done, because you cannot, that's the thing. You can like latch up drop stitches. You can fix broken heels. You can tink. I mean, you can spend hours to fix something when really it's more beneficial just to start over. But if you run a drop stitch through your selvage, that's not fixable. You cannot fix that. You just got to start over. So we're just going to keep going for demo's sake. So now if you look across one of the good parts of the sock, you can see I have got 3 bars. Here's my gap for the ribber needle. That's where the ribber needle is going to do some thrusting action, right? We got 1, 2, 3 bars going across, okay? We're going to stop at 6 o'clock and we're going to get our ribber going. Get this ribber on. Did you all take Daryl's class yesterday?
Yeah.
Yes. I like popped in now and then, but I never popped in when he was actually talking, which was not good. Let's make sure the ribber is in work. We want our pin against the fin. I can feel it. You guys can see that? It's hitting my fin. I put my pin in the back of my cylinder because I don't want it messing up my heel, especially when I'm doing a heel or with my ribber on. That pin being in the back, and I just unscrew the cylinder, rotate it, screw it back in, it's fine. So the pin is against the fin. Let's make the drive pin all good. We're going to put the drive pin there and make sure my ribber tappet plate is pushed back against the drive pin. And I'm going to start, this is where I started. So I'm actually covering up some needles. So I'm just going to take my drive pin out, just go back a little smidge, just a little smidgy poo. And then we're going to start loading in the ribber needles. There's a couple ways you can do this. Hello. You can just put the ribber needle right in the slot and then take your pick or a little crochet hook or anything, and you can just grab your needles and pull them out, and you want all 3 of those bars. See how I got them? All 3. It's a little delayed, but it'll come up. And then just pop them right on that ribber needle and push it back into place. So all 3, that's the important part. That's what's going to make the little squishy down part. That's what's going to make our pretty little rainbow scallop. Okay, the way I do it is I just pull out the needles and I grab all 3 bars with my ribber needle like that, and then I just pop it into place. And we're going to do this all the way around. Boop. So on my TikTok live, people will come on and they'll say, oh, I forgot the drive pin, you guys. We got to get that back in. That would be a disaster. Okay, so we're just going to gently go around. And there we go. Now it's in place. And the other thing I like to do, like when you're putting ribber needles in and you got to move your ribber around because you got to get to where you can work again, I like to put my finger. So here's my last ribber needle that's installed. And I just put my finger right down there. And that way I have a physical barrier. I'm hitting my finger and I cannot go any further. And I don't want to go any further because if I went further, I would cover up the space where I need to put ribber needles. So there's a little tip for me to you. This is where I dropped that stitch so it looks a little cattywampus over here. Just pulling it out, inserting the needle. That's what she said. And again, here's my needle over here. I'll just try to be quick since the side isn't in a good frame. So that is basically it, y'all. That's pretty much the scallop top sock. I'm gonna keep going and making the sock. And sometimes I will take the ribber off. Here's how my pattern usually goes. I do the scallop top, and then I decide, do I want a long sock? Do I want a short sock? Summer's coming. I'm gonna be wanting short socks. So I'm like, I'll do 35 row foot. Sorry, not a foot, leg. There's no cuff. There's no cuff on these because it just goes right to the scallop. The scallop top kind of is the cuff. So I'll do like these socks I did here are 40 rows. So that makes kind of a nice mid short, kind of a longer short sock. Maybe I do 30 rows for if I want it kind of shorter. And then I do a pre-heel. I always do a 15 row pre-heel. The pre-heel is when you take the ribber needles out in the back of the sock because nobody wants rib stitches underneath their heel, right? And then it's time for the heel. Okay, so I got all my ribber needles in. I'm gonna keep holding my yarn just kind of lightly. And sometimes I reach under and I pull down, like pop down. If you start to see my ribber disc is a little low. There's not like a lot of gap here between this ribber and my cylinder. So when I get back into the room, I'm probably going to get out my little Allen wrench and just tweak it to lift it up just a smidge. But you know, hindsight's 2020. What am I right? All right, so that is around. Our selvage is now complete. Woo! Yay! I am a team heel spring. I always have my heel spring on all the time. Love it. Love it. We're going to reset our row counter. And let's do 30 rows. Why not? So if you want to do a fully ribbed sock, this one I kept my ribber on. Here's the heel. I kept my ribber on through all the way to the toe. It is a little bit daunting to do a heel when your ribber is on, but you know, practice, practice, practice. I have all kinds of scratches on the bottom side of my ribber because my heel forks, I go up and I push against the underside of the ribber to make sure I'm really getting those hooks on there real good. So yeah, that is it. That's how you do the scallop top sock, you guys. 30 rows. Thank you. Maybe we do it again and you guys want to come closer or something because we do have a whole hour. Yeah? I could stop. Let's just stop and start over. And you guys can come on up and watch.
Amy, will there be written directions on this at all available to us?
No, that's it. You do it. I'm afraid I didn't write up anything. Sorry. But it's just an E-wrap. And I also have I've posted, it's kind of a couple years old now, but on the Facebook groups, I've posted, you just start with an E-wrap. You start with all your ribber needles out, you do an E-wrap, then you go around 2 more times, so you get those 3 bars. And that's it. That's it.
Thank you.
You want to mention your TikTok channel?
I am on TikTok. If you want to join me on TikTok.
And follow her.
I have these little cards here if you wanted any of my information. I also have, I like to use a sock blog,
I'm gonna put it.
and I have that available if anyone wants to download and use the sock blog that I use. I've got that on there also. So let's have a look at this little scallop top.
I have a friend on TikTok.
You know, I think I will come get some of that yellow fishing line because it's real important that you can see it. Turns out being able to see is a real vital thing.
To give you the braided fishing line.
Woo!
stick that
I
there.
was gonna say, never mind those two. Is Erlbacher's gonna post this, video, right?
Yes. So if you want to come up and see our little scalp top,
Oh.
will I get my room stuff out?
It's okay. You can go.
No. You can take the yarn too.
Yeah, no. Oh, yeah. I see.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks. It really is a simple beginning to a sock.
You could do that on any sock, not just
And
ring.
here's one that's done. Oh, here's one that's done.
Oh,
Yeah,
no,
you
you
can-
don't.
Oh, yes, thank you.
So you could do it on a regular sock.
Oh, aren't you sweet? Yeah, you can do it on a regular sock. I mean, this is a regular sock. I'm not sure what you mean by a regular sock.
Like a hand knit sock.
You know, I've thought about how to do it on a hand knit sock. I don't know how we would do it because I wanted to do a little scallop top on
If you want to see.
Fingerless gloves.
That's just the one.
And I couldn't figure out how to get it on both sides, because it's easy to start it off, but getting it on the other side is a little trickier. So, and I was like, well, how would we do this hand?
This is just braided fishing.
Pretend to be more interested.
Crochet pattern or whatever.
Let's do it. I guess we're not quite doing it yet, but we're casting
So
on.
you only go, make sure you don't run around your step short.
You made the,
Okay.
I did make it with the split rings, yes.
Got a lot
That
to
was
say.
quite a
Okay.
fad when I first got my machine. I don't know if that's still a trend.
I just ordered that.
No, we're not broadcasting. I'm getting
Back in
pictures.
2019 or 2018,
Yeah.
when I got my machine, this was quite the fashion, was to put the split rings on, and I liked it.
I was gonna say, don't get too big a split
It
rings.
is-
I
yeah,
just grabbed some jump rings I had, stuck them on, and you need the little ones because it overlaps the
Oh, yeah.
needle, even though
That's what she's terrifying.
you don't have the loop on everyone. It was just too big and it would catch, and then they would like shoot off.
So you can grab it and pull down.
Yeah,
Because
okay, yeah.
if it gets stuck, then you just gotta.
2.5?
And sometimes they don't pass over the tabs if you don't have that tension down, so.
Amy, do you have an equal slot barrier?
I do have a slot.
Okay, is that possible? I mean, I turn that over and I like this side. Is there possible to make that and reverse it?
The edge, the
She likes
look,
the edge on
if
this
you
side.
look at the,
You just turn it inside out.
Oh, okay, and flip it down too.
Yeah. And that's how I did my fingerless gloves too. I did like extra long and pull them over.
Oh, okay.
So you're like got an action mode when you're typing.
well, shoot, I think we were just saying, like, you just make that the outside, so
Right.
you would just do it.
Well,
Is
you
that
would do.
crazy?
That's a little, that's a little bit.
Yeah.
And then you would
It's gotta be
be
rapid.
ribbing 3 needles at a time and then opening it, and your river really isn't made to do that. And if you don't have an equal slot river, you wouldn't be able to.
But then it's
I
like,
fiddled around with trying to get lots of
very
river stitches together when I
sorry.
was trying to use some keyless ones.
Yeah.
And it was tricky.
Gonna help
Like
you
the
guys.
river doesn't really want to do that many river stitches all together, all in a line, you know? Okay, so my rear cast on. I think I won't bother with the.
Is that gonna be hard to see with the yellow lace that
Oh,
you
no,
have?
we're together literally every day. all
We don't
week.
actually
It'll be
need
better
to see it, I
because
just
You
don't
need
know
to
if
sleep
it's
the
long
same
enough.
bed, it's
Let's
nuts.
just have a look.
I know. That was the biggest perk of getting married to her. At first it was.
It is long enough, yeah. This is just crocheted cotton, I think,
I'd say maybe
which is great too. But mine, I've got a ton of this at home and it does break. It breaks, every time I do a roll top sock, it usually breaks. Okay, so I'm stopping at 6 o'clock and I'm lifting my needles by hand because I didn't bring on my needle with her. There we go. Lift the rest of these dudes up and let's not miss any this time. Now we're gonna do our E-wrap. I guess I do need to just cut this. My heart. I don't know about you guys, but having cone yarn on like more than one cone, that's heartbreaking. Heartbreaking. Anytime I have to frog a sock and I've cut the yarn, just have to make a slip. All right, so this is where I started right here, just slightly before my 3 o'clock mark. And also there is actually, I like to go clockwise when I'm doing my E-wrap clockwise. And what that does is basically you want to go against the natural twist of the yarn. If you go with it, it's gonna, you know how stockinette likes to roll.
Yeah.
And that's the whole reason why you put ribbing is to keep that stockinette from rolling. So if you go against the twist, it's gonna work against that natural roll of the stockinette. The ribbing also is gonna help because we do have a rib stitch right there, 3x1 rib. And that's gonna keep it from rolling too, but if you go with the twist of the yarn, it just is gonna wanna roll a lot. So, like sometimes by the time I get to the end of the E-wrap, the yarn, it looks all untwisted because I've gone against that twist. So, it's just what we want. So, like Kim said that lots of people come to her and say, I can't believe Amy's here, but that just seems crazy. Y'all don't know who I am, right? You don't know.
Not until now.
Okay. Like, I think Kim was just trying to gas me up a little bit. That's not. I just make socks. You guys, it's no big deal. I just like to make socks. And so I pop on TikTok, I go live, and then I'll play music and sing. And sometimes we tell jokes, and I usually have a tasty beverage, and I'll clink with the camera. We all have.
And then you
drinking
probably get
games.
that warning at the bottom of your
And then-
TikToks, do not do this if you're under 21 or whatever.
It's apple juice, right?
It's usually
Fussy apple juice.
Fermented.
Is it? Okay.
No, it's usually beer or sometimes it's bourbon. All right, so we got our E-wrap done. We're gonna lower these down. We're gonna go around. We want those 3 bars. And you guys, I did not come up with this. This is, the scallop top is by Kathy Roletter. I should have said that in the beginning. You want to give credit. Credit is due. Kathy Roletter, I found it on Facebook.
Can you redo it on social media?
Yes.
They used to have Yahoo groups.
Yeah.
And there was a big CSM community in the Yahoo groups. Isn't that funny? Like in the 90s.
Alright, so it's really funny, I didn't recognize like the name as far as like the TikTok name. And I was like, Rain is Hammy.
Yeah,
So it's
Rainish.
Rainish Amy.
So like rain with an E on the end has kind of been my internet handle since the
Yeah.
90s because I'm old. So I put you can see the pin inside my cylinder here in the back. There's my pin. I'm just gonna,
So you just put your pin in the back. all
I
the
put
time.
my video, yeah, it just stays in the back. Sometimes I have my toe marked in the back also because sometimes I'll do a toe on the back of my cylinder. Just because that way, like if it's on the front, the pattern goes up and then it comes up and stops on top of the foot. If you do your toe on the back, then the pattern goes on top of the foot and it will break on the bottom of the foot. And sometimes I just like to be a little extra, a little bougie, and be fancy. Okay, that is really low. I gotta tweak my river here. Do you see how there's no gap here?
No.
There's no good.
I gotta get the little hex key and go under here and just screw it up a little bit. All right, so now we're gonna start with our river needles again. We'll just drag them out, grab all 3 of the bars. Now let's do this a little bit. I should really stop like just a little, like an inch back, but I never do.
Your finger's not very soft.
Yep. So how long have you guys had your machines? Curious. 3 years, yeah?
A year.
A year?
Almost 2.
6 weeks.
Wow. And Elizabeth, get her
Negative 30 days.
I watch every night that she's on, so I've watched a lot of these.
Also, sound effects, you know, they help.
They're free.
Burp. Yeah, which one?
Nope.
Which one now?
I
How?
think it's fine.
Ozzy, what's it? Who? Yeah, I like the purple too. I was gonna get purple or blue for my machine.
This lady over where I sit, she's new, and she said purple's her favorite color, so I'll have to show her.
Guys,
Combo.
what I did. My river is out.
Oh.
So if you look, none of these ribbed.
That's what I was wondering.
So
No, but I don't.
I put it.
I just
put
learned
it-
how to put the river on yesterday. So I was like, is it drop stitch? No, it has to be right.
Something is not just why it's not.
So what
ribbed.
does this do? This is the part they didn't tell me.
So in is in work. I always think like it should be like on and off, but in for in work, out is out of work. And I had it set to out when I was taking all those river needles out because if it's in, it kind of traps them and then it'll release them.
Okay, so I have another question. If it's out of work, that means that they're not gonna pop out and that you're gonna have another bar in there.
Exactly.
So it's gonna be
See,
4
look,
now.
Yeah, there's 4 bars in
You
there.
can-
And that's not on the needle. See,
Oh,
I would need to start this over. Or
Just pick
the
up
other
of
thing-
everyone.
Can you
See,
do
yeah,
the
what I
4?
could do if I was feeling ambitious is you could just,
Turn around and
Yeah,
flop
just
it
knit
on.
it off.
I could knit it by
Oh,
hand.
yeah.
Oh.
I would, that's
Oh,
the
that's
other
right.
one.
Yeah, you have time. You have another
I got it wrong.
27 minutes.
So, see, that's the good thing. I'm learning other things
See,
that
yeah.
I'm gonna do wrong, because I'm gonna do it wrong too.
You just need to evaluate,
Yeah.
like, is this fix gonna take me longer?
Yeah,
than I
then
started?
again.
Because
Right now,
sometimes-
yes.
yeah.
Well, no, right now, no. Like, I can fix mistakes.
But before she
Before, I
started,
can't
she
figure
should
out.
have watched to see if everything was in place too.
Well,
Yeah, but I should have.
Hindsight's.
they like pilots have like checklists that they have to check.
Yeah, I know.
And it's like, but it's like a physical checklist. They have to physically check
Yeah.
on this piece of paper. They're not allowed to just say,
So
oh
you're
yeah.
gonna save that one?
I saved that one. I saved a couple.
Yeah.
What's this thing?
So I bought this fancy handle from Celeste,
Mhm.
and it is heavier than the stock handle.
So it's a balance.
So this is a counterbalance.
Ah.
Like they say, you can just tighten the screw.
Yeah.
It's
It's
just,
still.
You never get it tight enough.
it just wasn't.
So where are you getting those?
This was by, you know, if you look on my sheet.
Mhm.
I
have a
got one in
reference
my
sheet.
cabinet
Yeah.
you gave me already.
Okay,
Okay.
well, if you go to that Crazy Books link, it's got a list of everything, like
Okay,
my light,
wonderful.
the
Oh, sweet.
handle, the counterbalance.
The light you had, you took out the
I did.
magnifier thing.
I got
I've
those.
seen people do it.
Okay. This river is really low. There's like barely enough room for it to escape down into the cylinder.
Mhm.
I also like to put this,
And you just have that on.
I do. I like it because it just gives a nice even tension. You can set the tension once and then it's done. But I do have to like check to make sure that, I do a tension test. I like if I have a new yarn that I've never used, I will loosen this up as much as possible and then I will knit with that yarn and tighten it, slowly tighten it
As
until
you go.
it's too tight.
Yeah.
and then I'll go back one click. That's where I did it.
Okay.
Because I like that stuff to be tight. This is gonna be a mess.
It looks like my stuff.
Let's just go over. See, I have to take it out of work just to get it off, because this is trapping it. So I put it out, and now no needles are coming out, and then I can lift it up. And now, we're gonna
That's
just put
handy.
it right back into in, so that I don't have to do that again in the middle of a demo with everyone watching.
Yes.
So.
Oh, yeah, that yellow is really easy to see now.
Yeah, that is, that clear stuff.
Yeah, the clear stuff's no bueno.
No good.
The yellow stuff's a lot better.
But it works great.
Yeah.
Just can't see it.
Yeah.
Oh,
So-
there we go.
You can see where that's a knit stitch that dropped, looks like, because that river was so low. All right, guys.
That's very nice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job. Where's my stuff?
Here I stand, I know I walked away. Had to find the person I'd become.
and never look back, never look back, never look back, no, never look back, never look back, no. Don't want to mislead, this is all you need. Be your everything, yeah, I'll be your everything. Still too soon to feel, please just say it's real. More than just a thrill, not just in it for the thrill. I'm in it for the loving, cause loving needs to touch it. You're pressing on my buttons, babe, let me tell you something. I'm in it for the loving, cause loving needs to touch it. You're pressing on my buttons, babe, let me tell you something. I'm in it for the love, I'm in it for the love, I'm in it for the love, I'm in it for the love. Even when you're low, you can let me know. You know I will show. Now we're sipping the Bordeaux. With you through it all, winter through the fall. You just make the call, yeah, I'm in it for it all. I'm in it for the loving, cause loving needs to touch it. You're pressing on my buttons, babe, let me tell you something. I'm in it for the loving, cause loving needs to touch it. You're pressing on my buttons, babe, let me tell you something. I'm in it for the love. 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 For the love. I'm in it 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 for the love.
Cleveland, Ohio. Little suburb outside of Cleveland.
We're gonna start when you're ready.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay.
10. Oh, it's 10.
We're good?
Yeah.
Okay, this class is called Creating with Tubes. Your handout says CSM and wearable art, because I think much of what you create on your machines will be wearable art. So how many people in here have an adding machine? Okay, and what have you made with the adding? Nothing?
Hats and scarves.
Hats and scarves, okay. Okay, so, and anybody in here have a flatbed machine?
I do.
Okay. So some of the things that I'm going to be talking about today, you may have encountered with your flatbed. Some of it may be applicable to the Addy, or those of you that have Addies might be able to tell me something about what you've done with your machine. So we called this creating with tubes, because I hate to do flat fabric on the CSM. I was gonna knit up a sample and I gave you some instructions in your handout about putting flat panels together. I don't do that. The back and forth, it's like doing a heel forever. Back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and I just can't do it. So everything that I've created here is done with tubes. And to compensate for the fact that there's double thickness, I use a real light lace weight yarn. You can come up and look. I have the yarn for all of these fabrics that I've made. So what I thought I would do is talk a little bit about the technique, and then we're going to have a fashion show. And I'm going to ask some of you to model these things that I've brought with me. So there's two ways that I do join tubes together. And everything that I have here is either made with one rectangle or two. And creativity, there's endless things that you can do with two rectangles or one rectangle. So the technique is you're going to knit your tube for as long as you determine it needs to be. And then technique number one would be that you're going to drop 2 stitches on either side of the hash mark on the opposite side. And the instructions are in there. So that means I drop 2 stitches at the 3 o'clock and 2 stitches at the 9 o'clock. And then unravel them. Let them unravel. And you know how when you're knitting a sock and you drop a stitch and it runs like crazy?
Here it doesn't.
It doesn't do
When you
that
want to.
when you want it to. So sometimes you have to work to
Of
let
course
those
not, yeah.
stitches unravel, you know, they don't do it when you want it to. But I'll drop the 2 stitches before I put on the waist yarn. Or actually knit 1 row of waist yarn, then drop the 2 stitches, and then continue with the waist yarn. That way I know exactly where those 2 stitches are going to be, and then let them ravel down. And what you end up with is actually I didn't unravel that one. You end up with ladders on each side.
Oh!
Should I keep going?
Yes.
Okay. You end up with ladders on each side. Okay? And the technique that you use is to take 2 or 3 stitches, ladder stitches from one side, and go back to you're lining 2 up. You go back, take 2 ladders, work back and forth and back and forth. And I brought these samples I can show you at the end on how that's done. It's very simple, but what it creates is a nice braid that you can see.
Yeah.
Is that, okay, nice braid.
Right.
It's really evident here.
Is it mattress stitch?
No, this
No.
is not the mattress stitch. This
Okay.
is,
The latch tool.
I'm using the latch tool and working with these strands on either side,
Okay.
taking 2 or 3 and going back and forth and latch tooling them together. It creates a beautiful braid. And I'm using this as an example because you can see the 2 different colors that are braided together.
Yeah.
And depending on how loose your knit is, you can get something that is pretty airy and lace-like. And that's really the technique. You need.
Okay, so looking at the piece you have,
Mhm.
that green on that side is 1 whole tube.
There's 3 tubes here.
And then the middle's a whole tube, so it's double. Okay.
Right,
Okay.
it's a tube. And
Wow.
then what you do is you, on the edge, you latch up two, and go all the way around. And what it does is it creates a fold and a decorative edge, and it's a natural fold. And all of these have that. You can see those and look at them closely. But we're going to pass them around. We're going to try them on, and then you'll see how they're put together. And now, most of the things that I have here, except this one, well, actually this one they're all made on the 84, because I kind of like to get the widest fabric I can. This one was made on the 84, but every other needle. I just thought, well, let's see what that'll do. And so that's why the tubes are skinnier. It's really lightweight. The first poncho I made years ago for the National CMS, KMS, they had a contest where you could do some wearable stuff. And I made it with leftover sock yarn. And when I tried it on, I thought it was too heavy. So that's why I'm using lightweight yarn, using lace weight. This is linen. It's very thin.
And you still do that on the 84?
Mm-hmm. And I'll show you a garment in a minute that's made that way. So that
What type of yarn? Is it wool? Is it cotton?
this is linen.
Okay, is that like a weaving yarn?
I think you could use it for weaving, but I bought it on Etsy,
Okay.
and they said you could knit with it. Linen knits up it's very stiff. When I first knitted this up, I thought, I don't know, but then I read that if you wash it a lot, it gets real soft. So it knit up beautifully. I mean, it ran through the machine like butter, but then it became very soft after I washed it. So when you're going to plan a project, you want to knit some swatches, first of all. Then wash them, let them rest, see how you want to latch them together. And so these are, you don't have to do much, but you want to do it, measure it. Here's another one. This is what I did to measure and figure out how much length you need. There's one poncho that the neck hole is here and then it goes down like this. So I measured, I had my husband measure me going around one shoulder to the other arm, and I knew I needed that length. And then I knitted my swatch from the linen, and I washed it, and it did shrink up a bit. So then I knew how many stitches I was going to knit. You do a gauge. The gauge is really important. Whenever you're doing knitting with garments, gauge is extremely important. So, and that's how they're, so all of these swatches were my swatches to make these garments. And then even on the swatches, you can kind of latch tool them back and forth and see how they look. Sometimes you're going to join two ladder stitches. Sometimes it's going to be 3, depending on the look that you want. If you do too many, it might pucker, but then, pull it a little bit and see how you like it. So that's one technique where you drop 2 stitches on opposite side of the cylinder. Another technique that I use is to leave out 4 stitches on each side. And it's not my favorite technique, but it does work. It makes a tighter weave when you latch. You wouldn't think that leaving out 4 stitches on each side would make it tighter, but it does, and I can show you the difference. So here are some samples that I knitted on the machine. One is done, let me shake. One is done by dropping 4 stitches on each side. I'm not dropping, taking 4 needles out on each side. And the other one is dropping 2 stitches after it's knit. And you'll see the difference. The top one here is dropping 4 stitches on each side. It's a much tighter weave when you go back and forth. This one was dropping 2 stitches after it was knit. Okay, so I'll pass these around and you can see the difference.
Do you have any more on the second page?
I do.
Yeah.
And here's 2 other examples.
Oh, look how.
No.
This was
Here's 2 other, it's the same thing. The looser, the looser weave on that is dropping 2 stitches. It gives you a lot of, that's my favorite technique, is to drop the stitches, because you have a lot to work with when you're going back and forth. If you take 4 needles out, you get a much tighter weave. And it's, I've tried it both ways. Sometimes I do the swatches both ways to see how I'm going to like the way they're put together. So anybody have any questions about the technique?
I came in late. Are you dropping those stitches or leaving them out and then latching the other side?
There's 2 ways you can do it. You either drop 2 stitches on either side at the 3 o'clock and the 9 o'clock position, or you leave 4 needles out of work.
And what cylinder did you do that on?
Most of this was done on the 84. But you can do it on any size cylinder. The difference in the garments that I made are that I'm using real lightweight lace yarn. Okay, so think about the technique, and then we're gonna do a little fashion show here. So you have pictures, drawings that I did, and these are not original. They came from like knitted patterns, crochet patterns that used either 1 rectangle or 2 rectangles. And so I'm going to start with a couple of these. This is just a simple wrap, just a plain wrap. I made this for a store downtown in Cleveland, and then the store went out of business, so I didn't. But I can pass that around. And it is a real good example of the weave, and this one was dropping 2 stitches on each side and latching them.
I might have missed it in the beginning, but how do you finish the 2 ends?
The 2 ends? Okay, haven't gotten to that yet, so that's good. What I do on the ends, and it's in your instructions, I either latch or do a 3 needle bind off, or you can, there is a way to latch tool them. You finish it off, and then on the samples that I'm passing around, you can also Kitchener. And I've done that. It all depends on how where the end is going to be. And if it's going to be prominent, then I will Kitchener if I want to. And then what you do is, some of the joining, besides joining back and forth, you can also mattress stitch. So we're passing that one around. That one was a 3 needle bind off, and then I went and did a chain around it to make it look like the sides.
What do you mean by 3 needle bind off?
3 needle bind off, it's where you take them,
Knitting
needles, and you put the 2 ends on 2 needles and use the one to
I've
do.
never done any.
Okay, there is instructions, or not instructions, but there's an illustration in the handout. Okay, you use 2 needles to put the stitches on, and then knit them and bind them off together. And then you can Google 3 needle bind off and get some really good instructions on that. Okay, I need a model. I need a model. Somebody model this. Okay, this is the linen poncho. This.
Yeah.
So that's the poncho, the asymmetrical poncho.
Yeah.
On here. It goes down, one arm and just covers. And so I measured myself from here to here.
Yeah.
To make sure that it was.
And she spent.
Jan, can you spin? They want you.
Good job, Anna.
That was done with linen. And we can pass that
Feels
around.
nice. Feels nice.
Pass that around.
Elegant also. Yeah, yeah. You could wear that like with an, an evening gown, a wedding, to a wedding. Yeah. It's really pretty. I like to wear black. This is black.
Well,
Black
then you
cheetah.
got
Sure.
Yeah. I have something like linen in my thing. You can strike up if you. But this is how stiff it is before you wash it.
And you lay it flat to dry?
Yes. Oh, and actually,
Did you
the
put this in
linen,
the
I
dryer?
put the linen in the dryer. So I washed it, and put it in the dryer to get it nice and soft.
Very nice. Straight. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, isn't that pretty?
Okay, another example that we have, I need another model.
Here, I'll be a model.
All right. This is a twisted front poncho. So just twist in the front, kind of put together like a Mobius. So it does a twist in the front.
Oh, yes. Oh, that's cute.
You definitely will. Well, you just, there we go. There we go. That's the twisted front poncho.
Very nice.
Okay, that's another one piece.
That kind of looks like a infinity swan.
Yeah.
It's a large
It's a
infinity, yeah. Or Mobius scarf.
Would you be able to show
So
us
you have a latch.
how you're doing that?
I will. I brought some samples. Okay. Another.
She'll probably show you.
This is another example. This is putting two pieces together. Yeah, two pieces together. This is a poncho. Who wants to model this one?
Oh, yeah. That's cute with jeans. Yeah. I like the colors.
This is the two-piece poncho. And that's using,
Yeah.
that's using that wool, that's merino wool. Pardon? This is, it's merino wool.
I like it. It's nice for jeans.
Okay, then I have this one. This is a shrub.
Ooh, that's cool.
Oh, that's pretty. And what I like about using the lighter weight lace yarns is that you get that bright. Sock yarn, you can do it with sock yarn, be very warm, so you get the drape. Now this side, if I did this again, I'd do it in a different color.
Yes.
That is cool.
Yeah, that's great.
How did you do that one? Because that
Okay, now that was a little bit different. That one, I started with the scalloped hem,
Okay.
and then I joined them with the mattress stitch together, the tubes. That's all it is. And then I liked the what you would call the wrong side better, so I turned it inside out because I like the way it looked.
And what's your number? 84?
84.
But
Yeah, I was earlier.
It's really neat.
Okay. Moving on.
Yeah.
And then, you know, these, let's pass those around so everyone can see. Okay, need somebody tall. Me.
Yeah, so I said she take two. Yeah. Take two and then we were back and forth. I think she takes two and then one, and then two and then one. Have the same number.
Yeah.
So on one,
Is this a circle, so this is nice?
yeah, that's what you're doing. Back and forth, that's all that.
Yeah.
I wish I have the latch tool in the
Now this,
other room.
this one is the cocoon.
Oh, that's really
Now,
cool.
which one is the one she just did?
Even if you don't want to study, to make another team, right?
Sure, sure, yeah.
Oh, I see.
This is a cocoon jacket that my model is wearing.
Yeah, I like that.
It is, this is merino wool. And then I use, this is wool and silk. And I used 2 strands of this, and this was just something that I had left over from my flatbed days. And that's how I created that fabric. 2 of these and 1 of those. That's, yeah.
Now, I would wear that.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I just have 2 more. One is just, it's like the poncho. This is just an infinity scarf.
These two together for this?
Those 2 together, yeah. So it was 2 strands of the navy and 1 strand of the, and this is just, I mean, it's.
Yeah. Yeah, that is awesome.
And then one last story about this. I was working for a store doing garments for them. And I would go into the Goodwill store and buy, I was doing some sewing, so I was buying old jeans. And I walked by this sweater. And I said, boy, I really like the yarn in that sweater. So I bought the sweater and I unraveled it.
No way.
And that's where this,
Is that the cocoon?
Yeah.
that's the cocoon.
I like
And I unraveled the sweater. The yarn was a little bit thicker than some of the other ones I used. So what I did was I used every other needle on the machine. And it created a real nice stitch.
Yeah.
And this is just, just a wrap strap. Yes, that one around. So, any questions about the? I can go over the technique a little bit more.
Do you have your latch tool there? I do. Somewhere. I just want to show. I have a knitting machine too.
Okay.
So they make 2 sizes. One is standard. Yeah. They make a bigger one with a bulky machine.
Okay, for those of you that wanted to see the technique.
Really nice.
Yes. See how, do you want me to do that?
You can show it here and then pass maybe, or let them come over to you if you.
Yeah, if you want to step up here to see the technique. Oh, no.
Oh, look, it's already got the book. So easy.
And I don't want to get in your way. So
It's
I'm
okay.
standing right over here.
No worries, it's fine. You guys can come check it out.
This is using stitches being unraveled. And like I said, if it's a sock, it can run like this. 2 stitches. But that's how, the distance that you get. This one is just leaving 4 out of work. But look at the difference.
Wow.
This is 2 dropped, 4 out of work. This is my favorite one because it tends to stay where it is. If you are latching up this one, sometimes your edges start to close as you're doing it. You really have to pay attention to what you're doing. So on this, I'll show the example of this. So if I have my long tubes, I'm going to lay them side by side, and I'm going to take 2 strands, maybe 3 of these. 3 strands on the one, 3 strands from the other one. And this is a 2-ply, so you can see it looks like it's 6, but it's really. Okay. And then you go back, pick up the next 3.
And that first one hides sometimes, doesn't it? The first one closest to the next one.
Yeah. And so you kind of have to look back. And I'm kind of real finicky about the way that this is going to look in the end. Now, see, that to me is too tight.
So drop down.
So I would go back and do 2.
Okay. So if you were gonna add it wider, you would have to drop some more to add like the 3rd and 4th tubes to it?
Yes.
I'm
I'm not sure.
Like, okay, you're gonna join these 2 together, now if you needed to join another one and make it wider, you'd have to
Just-
drop more here and.
No, well, actually what you're doing is you've got another tube, and
Oh,
I want it
okay.
wider, another tube, and then another tube. But, so on this, so if we did 2, yeah. And this is gonna be the white sample that I cast around. That's exactly, I think, what I did on that one. See, I'm taking 2. And I'm taking 2 from here. So would it be closest to?
So how do you finish off the edge when you get to the top?
When I get to the top, what I do is I'll put a
Is
pin to
that what you
hold
meant by
it.
a 3-strand bind off? Right there?
Pardon?
When you said a 3-band bind off, is that what you're doing there?
No, what I'm doing is just latch 2 of
Okay.
them together. When I get to the top, there's different ways that you can finish them off. This is a 3-needle bind off.
That's what I was.
Okay, so you put one side on I use double points, and then another side on the other, and then you go in and bind it off.
So you
That's a
take that
3-needle
off the
bind.
machine and put it on double point needles?
I'll put it on waste yarn first, and then put it on double point needles. And usually what I do is I latch tool everything together before I even bind off. So I would, if this were a garment, I would latch tool this together, all my pieces together, and I put a little pin to hold the braid after I'm done with it. And then what I'll do then, after I latch tool them together, I'll determine how I want the bind off to go. That's when I determine that, because then the whole garment, I, try it on and everything, and I still got waste yarn on there. Then I determine how I want to bind it off. And as you're working across, then you can incorporate the top of your braid that you've caught with a pin.
Onto the bind.
And then the bottom, you do the same thing. You gotta close it up a little bit. There'll be a little gap there. Close it up. And then on this one and some of the others, I did the 3-needle bind off, but I wanted this edge to look like this edge. So I went over it with a crochet hook and 2 strands, because I was doing 2 strands or 3 strands up the side. How many I used on the side, I do that there. So for the sides of your garment, so we latch to it up. Let's say that this is my outer side. All I'm gonna do on this is put 2 needles, 2 strands. If I use 2 strands in the middle, I'll use 2 strands up the side. And that makes such a nice edge.
Okay.
It just, and it makes it fold, right, in half and stay there.
And that was with your button belt? No, that was with your.
That's
Closing by the side.
So if you're using double points and you have this wide thing, when are you taking off the waste yarn?
I only do 1 panel at a time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
that would be,
that
I
would
do
be
one
crazy.
panel, I'll work across this panel, bind off, then pick up the stitches on the next panel, bind off, and then on this
Yeah.
one,
Yeah, you could do.
Yeah.
you could do circulars and put it all in circulars if you wanted to. And then this one I did a Kitchener.
Okay.
And when I do the Kitchener, I do it from the outside. And just Kitchener if you want. Yeah, so that I did the Kitchener. This one was just mattress stitch going back and forth. And after I got the tubes knitted, I liked the inside for that project better than the outside. And I started off with a scalloped edge. Yeah, and you can,
I thought you were too. I thought you were gonna do like sock monkeys and stuff like that.
Oh,
Way better.
I can't wait to go home and give this a try.
Yeah, I go home and do it. This is art.
well, that's beautiful. So, yeah, then,
Make it too.
you know, if you see, I was on the computer last night and there was a ad that came up for this shawl. And I thought, I could do that, you know, because, you know, if you envision either one long rectangle or, you know, or 2 and put that together. And then if you're gonna do something like a twisted front, take a piece of like an old sheet, cut it up and try to see how it's gonna fit first, then figure out what your length is gonna be. When you do a twisted front poncho or this one, this twist front, you need more in the front than you do in the back. So you have to keep that in mind. So take some old sheet, cut it up the size that you think you're gonna need, and then you'll know before you do your gauge. Wash your gauge, let it set, then do your measurements, because it's really important if you want the garment to fit.
Those are, there's a bunch in the back.
And what's this waste, what I think is
It's just like,
That you do.
I go through a lot of
Do you think that would work for you?
this year.
Yeah.
It's sterling.
I mean, that to make sense, but using it as waste yarn.
Okay. The reason you can, it's not fuzzy and then you can pull it. And sometimes it breaks
Yeah.
It's great for it. It's just 224.
Okay, so remember 224.
This is the computer here.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
She was actually smaller. And then kind of adapted it, and then what you wanna do is take some, you know, like an old sheet, cut it up and see how much how much you want, how much, or make it. For this one, I just said, well, I wanted to go, I was making a lot of these, so I wanted to go from here to here, so I measured myself, you know. And on that one, that's why I said we needed somebody tall, because it has, there's a lot there, so it has a lot of weight, and so it's really perfect for.
So is that 6
drapes beautifully though.
That was.
Or 6 tubes, yeah.
6 tubes, yeah.
But this looks like, on me, it's wrist to wrist, so if it's a little bit bigger than it's smaller than wrist to wrist.
Right.
And then, you know, what you can do too is just,
Yes.
you don't have to wear it to here, you can just push it back to your.
Which would be a good beginner project in your opinion? What would be a good beginner?
A good beginner project would be like this wrap or a locust.
Which wrap?
Oh, the one praise.
Oh,
that
That one or the green one?
This the cow. you know, start like that, start this, now this is a parker braid.
Is it Mobius or just?
This is just an infinity.
It is infinity. Okay.
But you could make them, this just twist one.
Yeah, we would say
There's three. And that one's.
Mobius is a twist, but
Yeah.
infinity
Yeah.
just doesn't.
Okay.
So Mobius
Yeah.
infinity, basically.
Okay.
Yeah, that,
I don't want the twist.
Yeah.
Well, it was necessarily that was okay. That happens sometimes. So what was your silver?
this one was 84 every year.
Oh. So, okay.
Yeah.
And is it lace blue or is it? This is a sweater.
I was, and then I got it in lavender.
Yeah.
I just had this yeah.
Okay, so like Mobius is just, it is, it's, yeah.
That's true. Or
Unless you come back and
it's really simple.
okay, so it's 3 and then 3 and 3 and then matched one side to the ends. Now, are we still going?
Yeah, it's okay. Go ahead. I'm just.
Oh, I have, it's your handouts that you.
Yeah.
It would work.
Why does this not have a gap?
And then this.
Like
Really?
it's been washed.
I was buying old jeans and I was doing
It was every other needle.
You might need a little heavy.
And this one was actually, I did try too much for
Yeah.
It's dropped. Yeah, and I think I just. Right, exactly.
When you say pre-show action, so it's 3 stitches.
You're grabbing 3.
with the tool, 3. So
Yeah.
independent of how many.
I've done Fingerless, yes.
Yeah. We got it last year.
Right.
Yeah. That's where I keep things.
Is this the 18-2 double? Did you double it or
This is 84. 84.
No,
what do I
you guys got it.
We got it on video, if we have.
2 of those and 1 of those.
Okay.
What is that, the one that you just?
There she was.
There it is.
Oh, good, good, all right. So on this, which continues, on wait a minute, somebody wants to unravel it, I can show you.
I'm sorry, you said 2 wool and silk, and what was the other one?
That's a merino.
Oh.
So that's how much you get in your shower. It's down here. So if I were to latch to this.
So that's my 2 drop stitches.
That's your 2 drop stitches. What I'm gonna do is let's do 2.
Don't alternate, it's always start, right?
No, you see, I'm going back and forth.
Oh,
So on the left,
yeah.
then I'm gonna do the one on the right. Then I'm gonna do. Before, do this one. So it does. The only thing sure you check. Look back at your work to make sure you didn't
You
miss.
like it.
Sometimes you'll latch up too on one side, it sticks, to me, it sticks out
Okay.
like a sore thumb.
Okay.
And
You'll
then
see it,
how
so
I
look,
did it.
check it, after every few inches, because you can always take it apart.
So when you're doing this and you're doing this from the front, is this your front of your work?
That's gonna
Like,
be the front. There
That's gonna
is a
be the-
definite, this is the
Where was the one that was?
the
that
back
one.
side. This is the front side.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah,
okay, okay, so you can
Yeah.
definitely see. And
Yeah.
then at the end, at the very top, you're gonna pin that
Yeah,
and incorporate it with your,
when I do the
bind
bind
off.
off, whatever bind off I
Okay.
use.
okay,
So
it makes more sense now, okay.
So you can see.
It's
the
like a nice braid.
It is,
It
it
is.
it is. You can see it here
Gorgeous.
and you can see it there. It makes a nice braid. Now, I know a lot of people do Afghans too, that, if you're gonna use sock yarn, you want a warm Afghan, you can do the same thing with sock yarn. So but that's, you can see the braid forming. You can see some of my.
I can make snow angels.
So,
Very nice.
yeah, and then, this is dropping or taking 4 needles out of work. See the difference though? This is,
I know.
it's amazing how.
Yeah.
So tight.
I like this.
It's
really.
Ah, okay, so you have extra because of the knit already.
right.
Yeah,
It gives
yeah,
you
yeah.
all
So then it
that-
goes wider, where
Yeah.
this one, it's pulling across the floor, so yeah, that would
Pulls across
make
the
sense.
floor, and then when you're latch tooling that up, this is an example. When you're latch tooling that up, this is why I don't use it.
The edge stitches.
It pulls the edge stitches while you're working it.
Yeah.
So you have to be real careful getting that in there. There.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So if you start pulling, this is why I like to do the 2 needles and drop it. You start pulling on that, the stitches kind of close up. And you have to be
then you
real
have to really
careful.
dig
Yeah.
around.
You have to like pull it apart and see where you were.
Okay.
So I won't even learn
The
that. I'll just
two,
try to
the
learn
two
that.
is better.
And it does take a while to unravel it. You saw me trying to unravel that. It does
Yes.
take a while to.
Yeah.
It's satisfying at first and then like, okay, I'm done with it.
Yeah, if it's my sock, it's just gonna go.
Yeah.
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 And,
Wool has a tendency to kind of grab onto itself. So sometimes I take that double pointed needle in the back end of this and kind of help it along.
Oh, yeah,
Pokes it-
there you
it
go.
helps
Sort of.
an adding fit would do. So there you go. And then you would.
That.
So just to be clear, Pat, you said you can achieve gaps 2 different ways. One way is to leave needles out,
Yes.
and and the other way is to just drop those stitches. Do you ever do more than? Yeah, you do more than 2. Right?
2 or 4?
It's 4 if you're gonna leave the needles out.
Oh. Oh, okay.
It's 4 and you.
4 in a row.
4 in a row, and you only get that from 4 because it's just drawing.
It's just
And I wouldn't take out any more than 4 because when you're knitting in the round, it
messes.
yeah, it messes it up if you do more than 4.
And when you do it this method, you were saying that latching up the edge stitches pull more.
They pull more because you don't have that much to work with.
Okay, so it's not really about the construction or it's not about how you did it. It's just that you just don't have as much.
You don't have as much to work with. You have this much versus this
Yeah.
much. This is 4 needles out of work. This is just dropping 2 stitches, and it gives you that. And I like the lacy one.
Right.
This one was dropping stitches, and then the other one that's like this. And it's sitting around here.
Some of us may or may not. Here's another.
This one was dropping, and that one that's over there. Oh, that one was leaving them out of work. So you can kind of see, this is lacier
Yes,
and this is
the
tighter.
2 drop
They
stitches
both
are-
look nice.
Yes, but this one gives it more definition.
Yeah,
that pattern and that stitch.
And like on this, I wanted that gap, I wanted that laciness.
Yeah, airiness.
So how many did you do on this one?
Yeah, that's really gappy. 1, 2, 3, 4, it looks like you latched up.
It could have been 4.
Yeah. Okay, so
Play
this is
with
where
it
you're
until
more.
I liked
it. It makes sense.
Beautiful.
Because of the fold.
As long as it doesn't pull, you latch it up, do your sample, latch it up and pull it this way. Yeah, if it looks this way.
Right.
I had it very early, number 94.
She said a little bit less. And then, again, what did you do on the other edge?
On the other edge, that's,
To
that's
finish.
pretty simple.
Okay.
Did you say you measured?
10 is, this is your outer edge.
Right.
We're gonna
She
pull
put it on.
2.
Oh, that's
Oh.
two. Okay, so you're latching up, but you're just doing 2 at a time.
2 at a time, rather than going back and forth. And
Gotcha.
as you work your way up.
Sorry, can we switch? People are asking online to show a close-up of the latching. Sorry, it's okay.
Okay, they want
So
to see a
that,
clip?
yeah.
I'm doing the outer edge now. That's the outer
Oh, you
edge.
missed it. You
I
missed
did, I did.
I'm just glad I was here.
And that's the braid it forms on the outer edge. If they want to see the latch tooling on here, we started this one. We were doing, I'll put my hand under there so you can see it. We're doing 2 from one side and then going back over to the other tube and doing 2 from that side. Oops. Oh, this never happens except for when I'm on camera. Do 2 from this side. Do 2 from the other side.
And what do you like especially about this? Do you like the way, I like the way she makes it.
And then you end up with that braid.
So you like the look of the
Okay.
garment.
Now, do you normally lay this on a table when you're doing this?
Yeah, I do. I'll have it.
Looks like it would
Actually,
be
I
a-
have it like usually like this.
Oh, okay, 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 wonderful, wonderful, okay.
Yes. It's the same set you put on the TV, it just kind of like, yeah. Just have to look back and see.
Make these.
So we have to look at we have
See, she anchored it on every tube, right?
I told you, in between, what I did was I folded it in half and the mattress stitch back.
Okay, so this is the end of the mattress. It looks like a tube.
It's gorgeous.
I would make this out of sheet next time I put them, right?
I watched it and I ordered it. I told her. I said, I ordered one on Etsy.
That's, apparently, these are the ones to get.
Yeah, I think this is nice. How do you sort of
Yes.
choose your yarn? I don't know how to apply yarn.
She goes by silk.
She does?
How do I keep
And
it
she
around?
around, I know what that is.
Some of this yarn I inherited.
Let's have a field trip today to Goodwill. You just gotta have a good eye.
These 2 pieces,
Here we go.
somebody, a friend of mine had a friend that was moving. And she had like a stockpile of yarn. She could not, she had to move from a house into an apartment.
We wouldn't know how that.
And so she just gave her all this yarn and she said, well, I thought I'd like put some yarn aside.
No,
And this was-
single. Good, 'cause
All these different colors. And you were supposed to get a dust one and the wool.
Oh, okay.
No, it's I'm reducing the different colors as you work aesthetically.
Yeah.
I'm not doing this.
I decided to put it into a block thing, and it was just a bunch of skins of this.
on something like this, do you a home rush and Joanne, or how do you?
I just changed colors.
Oh, you did, okay, so that's all I do, is just change colors.
Colors, how long I wanted it, and somewhere in, probably, somewhere in here, yeah.
It's gotta be for schools like that. I can show you.
So you did, of course, on the front side, did you?
Oh my God.
Okay.
He does not.
What I
have a
do,
website. Just tell him what you want. He'll
fold
tell
it
you
in,
what's available.
and I
Just
take
say,
the
and
tail.
you know what, you know ahead of time, I don't like what
I
color.
start to the
Or
front.
what he does is he invices you in the
Go out
box.
all the way starts from the
Oh,
side.
okay.
And Pat told me her waist on, and it's like, you're like, is it tan? You walk
No,
into
it's not
this-
Tam, Tam is a little bit, I use, it's 224.
Oh, okay.
It's a
real
very
inexpensive.
You could
buy
Yeah. I have
thing like this.
Yeah, and you can just see them, people offer them.
Do you have it here?
And you walk up there and it's the safest place in the world.
Yeah.
Or my
It's just
sister.
juice.
And it's on,
And
it
it
comes on one
Okay,
side.
yeah, but I,
You
sell
buy
them
them like 2 pounds.
yeah, they're huge.
I'll
buy something
He ships out.
Because no one wants to use that. It's
If
so
no one wants to use it
They
anymore.
used to give it away.
And
How many people do that?
Yeah.
across the board.
They all did. It was inexpensive.
Two of it
Two
together.
of them together, 3 of them together.
And what I
And
like,
then people did charities and
Yeah.
they would just put 2 or 3 of them together and you would just take it off and give it away.
it's real, you'll see it on, sometimes people will it on Facebook, you'll see it on.
Yeah, it's
I
just.
mean, two
like-
places
like-
no deal,
like-
but even
Yeah.
like this, every place in the world,
Two.
slash 2.
It's not good for much, but waste.
But she says people like it's a rabbit foot, like when you undo it.
Yeah, it does break if you pull it too hard.
And
Yeah.
when
After I do the 3 needle bind off, I'll spot right here.
And I'm gonna tell you all.
Yeah.
But if it gets stuck, it'll break, but then when you go like this,
You got your opportunity.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you have that waist charm here with you?
I don't, I would use it sometimes, and what I'm using is
Okay,
stuff
I
that
like
I
to use it.
back together, I don't have to color.
Okay.
Color was this big, it's this big now.
It's
It's
this
this
big.
big.
Wow, okay.
Okay. And
Thank you
so much.
very
Yes.
much.
Thank you.
Oh, what a wonderful presentation.
That was very,
You know, I'll be around if you guys,
This
want to
was
see any of this again up close. I'm on, what neighborhood? What neighborhood? I'm on the side across from, the embroidery. I'm like.
It was amazing, was it?
Like into the room?
I'm in the room.
Okay,
I mean,
yeah, but from where I work, Carol Mancuso, so.
Okay,
I'm just like straight ahead.
if you went like this,
Yeah,
I'm
there you
here,
go.
so I'm.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. But if you want to see this up close, and somebody asked about black women. Wow. I have,
Okay, so I have a question. I am staying at an Airbnb and I thought while I was here, I would make a scarf for my host. She's Asian and everything, and I thought of cotton, making a tube, and everything. You think that would be sufficient material to use?
what kind of cotton do you use?
I have no idea, I haven't bought it yet.
She needs a filter.
This was just a thought in my head today. Well, I thought I would make her some washcloths when I got home, but I'm like, and stuff. What is your take on that when you don't know the person well, and everything? You think a cotton?
This is cotton scarf.
Okay.
This is cotton.
Okay.
That's crazy.
And then
There you go.
Couple tubes and latch them together.
Get on his
Come on over and see me when you get there.
Yes. But
Oh, yes.
so is there a length that would you go like here to here
On this one?
Yeah.
So I only have a 60 cylinder, so I may have to do 4 across, you're saying, or 8 total. Okay, but then how do you predict the length that you're doing the tube?
You know what, I have one extra tube that was at home because after I got,
I see.
I had too much.
Right.
So what you know, that's why, and the reason I had too much is when this goes down the back, it really drops pretty far.
Right,
And I thought, that's enough. I was trying it on the mirror and I was like,
You didn't
that's
want
enough.
it
Yeah, that's why I said, we need somebody tall.
And that's 6.
And I thought that was enough. So.
Do you know the length of your tube would be? Oh, it's almost to your wrist, I see.
Well,
Yeah.
But it pulls a little bit too.
Yeah.
Pulls a
It'll
little
pull
bit.
back.
Yeah, and so for me,
Mine is
I
flat.
just
It's okay.
kind of
Cuff it.
fold it up here because it is long. I didn't realize how much weight was going to pull down in the back.
I got you.
But then if you're wearing leggings, it's
Yes.
covering your bone.
So
So
this
that's-
body doesn't know.
yeah. Well, how does it work? That would be-
No, do it by hand.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
So was this 8, this was 8 total? This was 8 strips total or no?
This was
8.
2 rectangles.
Right. And there was 4 in each.
I really like this. I wish I hadn't missed it.
Yeah, I didn't see it in the schedule.
I saw it, but
So you have 4 and 4.
Oh, is it 4? No, it's 3.
Oh, 3,
1, 2, 3.
Oh,
1, 2, 3.
Okay.
So she's binding that off and this is
That's
just open and then she's, okay,
I did the bind off here. So.
okay. And that's in your.
you are. I don't know.
Paperwork.
There's an illustration
Okay,
in there.
okay.
So you're gonna know that you're gonna join them together like this.
That, and then let's.
Wow, and wow, no.
And then you're gonna
Here's
put
my
those
seed.
tubes together, that
And then
tube together.
But if you have a 60 cylinder, you might need the 4. 4 and 4.
Yeah, you might.
Okay.
And what I did was I would picture some of that and try it on.
And try it on.
So,
Wow,
and then,
fabulous.
but it, you know, as light as it is, there's a lot of weight to it. There's a lot of fabric.
Right, right.
So before you do the waist yarn, then you drop those, whatever it was, 2 and 2, right before you start your waist.
And I gave you, you know, step by step.
Okay.
So
And this is sophomore?
this
this
was
2 of those.
two of this and 1 of this.
The chips.
If anybody wants some of this.
There's more copies here if you guys
Oh.
Spin some off. And what is that? Yeah, what is?
This is a merino wool, and then this is merino wool and silk. That's why I feel so nice. I do. And this here.
2 and 1. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, 2 and 1.
2, basically,
Yeah.
basically the way this goes. The instructions are really. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You just under the tube and then drop 2 stitches on each side.
It's
Like
very
ratchet,
thin.
you'll like pick up 2.
Yeah.
And just braid them together. Yeah, that's how that's done.
So you didn't wind off half of it.
I'm using lace weight.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, you're staying here.
Oh, is there another class?
This is a but it was knit with, fingers. So the white here was also another sweater I I'm gonna get my things all.
And the stitching that you did earlier, was that the one you used to bind the tubes?
The going back and forth?
Yeah, because one of the questions was,
Before we start, any chance you do a close-up of the stitch she is using to bind the tubes?
It's okay. It'll be in the handouts.
I don't know what she means. If she means binding off on the ends, that's a three needle bind off. On the top and the bottom, it would be a 3 needle bind off.
okay.
On the top, or you can picture, do a 3 needle bind off. This, the part in the middle is latching together the strands that are formed after you drop stitches.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I cannot believe I forgot. Actually.
I'll just close the doors.
You guys want it dimmer so you could see the projector? Okay. Hi, good morning. I'm Debbie Hammond. I'm going to show the fingerless one Croy pair of fingerless mittens that I make. It's one skein of Croy yarn. Croy yarn comes in different ones. There's FX, which is like this. There are stripes, which is this one, and there's the rag wool. And even though the yardage says the same, the stripes and the FX, you will play basically yarn chicken unless you really follow the directions. Now, sometimes in my hand, I'll do between 30 and 33. If I'm using the stripes or the FX, I'm going to make 30 rows instead of 33. If I'm using the rag wool type, the rag colors, I can make those longer because you're going to have a lot more yardage in this one than you are in this one. Don't ask me why, because all the packages say the same thing, and I've made hundreds of pairs of these fingerless mittens, and it always works the same. This is about what I had left over from the pair of brown that's being passed around. This is about all you. Sometimes you have less than this. Okay, so you really want to watch it. If you're going to make a pair, go on the smaller side, unless you're buying 2 or 3 skeins of the same color. A lot of times you can get the Croy yarn on sale for like $1.99. Look for it on sale, because other than that, it's $7.99 for a skein, sometimes $3. You can really pick this up quite reasonable. It only takes 1 skein for a pair. What I'm going to do a mock rib. This is not ribbed at all. It's a mock rib, so there is no ribber being used. I have 2 needles in, 1 out, 2 in, 1 out. So I've already done that, and that's how I start. I leave about an 8-inch tail inside, 10-inch tail to start. Now I kind of have cheat sheets, which is if you have my sheet here, at the bottom, I've put 1 skein Croy finger. I put 14 HH hung hem. After the 14 rows hung hem. Then I do 18 rows of mock rib. Then I add needles. I do 15 rows. So I'm doing I'm using a 54 cylinder. Then I'm doing my thumb. The thumb gusset is 23 rows. You can go shorter or longer. It depends on which type of yarn, or if you have extra, okay, how long you want your thumb. Then I do 30 rows. I take out the needles, I'm back to my mock rib, and I do 10 rows of the 2-1. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start, and I'm doing 14 rows, and I'm going to do a hung hem. Now, all of this is adjustable per the size of your hand. It does stretch quite a bit. So anywhere you want. Some people make the arms longer. If you want to buy 2 skeins of the yarn and you have 2 of make them longer, make them up to your elbows. It really doesn't, you can easily adjust this pattern. Christina here with me,
she actually closes her tops different than I do. I do like a hung hem top. She lets hers roll. So she's got a pair that I believe she's passing around. Are you, Christina?
Yeah, and what I do is I didn't complete that yet, I use a back stitch bind off.
So you have to bind it off to get it to roll.
It's, yeah, so it doesn't run.
Right, I mean, so the roll would happen, but you still need to bind it off.
Yeah, and then if you make them longer, you can fold it back, you know, so you have a little more, you know, rubbing it there.
The key is just making the hung hem, making sure you get the correct stitch at the top to put over the needle.
And if you're not good at doing a hung hem yet, always leave an extra long tail too, so that way whenever you take it off and if you find there's maybe one that you missed, you can use that tail to stitch it close so it doesn't run.
The trick to these that took me forever to learn, and I had looked at a lot of videos back when I started making things. You know, there were one or two YouTube videos to learn how to even use your machine. And you know, you'd look at the book and you know the original CSM books, you know, owner's manuals, and you couldn't figure it out to save your soul unless you were actually shown how to do a yarn thumb gusset. That is probably because it just doesn't click until you're shown. Sometimes, at least it wasn't for me, how to do a thumb gusset. Because it just didn't make sense. Okay, I've done my 14 hung hem. Now I'm going to do my 18 rows.
This is 20, but you do 18.
I do 18. You can adjust it. You know what? Like I said, depending upon what yarn I'm going to be using, I adjust. You can use 18 or 20. I'm going to do 18. Now I'm going to add my needles. So I'm going to stop with my yarn carrier in the back at the 6 o'clock. I happen to have a heel spring. I'm using a Laguerre 400, 54 cylinder. Yes, you can use other cylinders. You're going to have to maybe, you know, make more rows on the top. I find the 54 works best for me. So now I'm going to add in my needles. And I'm going to show you, you're not going to just go around, because if you go around, there'll be a hole. So what I do, I'm not going to get to my hash. My hash mark is this pink coral color over on the side. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the ladder of the stitch before the empty needle. I'm going to take the ladder and I'm going to hang it on top of that empty needle. That will ensure that I don't have a hole on the transition part between the mock rib and the knitting. So I'm gonna slowly go around to my heel spring is over by these empty. You can see where you haven't crossed it over by looking at the X's that it kind of makes. I kind of do it in 3 parts when I hang my needles here. So I'm putting the ladder on that empty needle.
Debbie, are you taking the top one or the second one down?
I'm taking the top one.
And I'm guessing it wouldn't matter if you took the bar from the needle in front or behind, or it doesn't matter. Which direction you're grabbing from?
You know what? I tend to go
Yeah.
counterclockwise, actually, the way that it's, I'm knitting. Once I have them all in, just make sure you put your heel spring back if that's how you, okay, let's see. I'm sure it wouldn't matter, but truthfully, I don't do it that way. And I want to say I never tried it. I guess, if you just tried it with, so I've added all my needles. Now I'm going to do 15 rounds. So that's 1, now I'm going to do the thumb gusset, and I have marked my cylinder. What you want to do is raise 33. I happen to have these purple marks, which are not my hash marks. My table at home happens to sit where my machine sits square to me. So it looks a little awkward while I'm using this table. This is my traveling table. So it looks a little awkward here, but you mark your cylinder where it's comfortable for you. So now I have 33 needles up, and I'm going to knit back and forth 23 rows. But I'm also going to use weights. I use the V groove, the V hook in the middle, and I put 2 weights on it. I then put 2 weights, fork weights, on the corners. And I'm going to do 23 or 24 rows. I'm going to go back and forth. Do not use your heel spring. You're going to have to adjust, and you're going to have to hold this like this and go back and forth. 1, 2. You just have to watch your needles. 3, 4. And like I said, it really doesn't matter how many rows you do. This is the thumb gusset. You're going to have to adjust your heel forks more often than you do for socks.
When I use it after, can you see where she's turning back and you got the hole almost where the needle is separated? Sometimes I'll hang my heel hooks in that area so it actually get it, because you gotta make sure that corner, the first stitch and the last stitch are down, or otherwise you're gonna drop
or it doesn't knit it, and you have to watch to make sure that it's knitting it. So you really need that weight in those corners.
I don't have a V hook and I use my stem weight on my, you know, when I make them to pull it down, so. Or 3 heel hooks, depending on how I feel the day. So if you don't have a V hook, you can use a weight.
As you can see, you've got large holes. I am very close to, I kind of lost count here a little bit, but I'm very close to the 23, 24. I tend to stop on this side. It doesn't matter if you stop on the left or the right, just make sure both, whichever, you know, how many rows you count, that you're always stopping at the right point. I'm going to cut a long tail here because now I'm going to do a bind off for the thumb. This is the thumb gusset. So this is coming off and I've got a long tail. And the reason I'm doing it, I do it on this side instead of working from the left to the right, is because I'm left-handed. And I find it easier to do it this way. So what you want to do is you want to pull the stitch off of the, out of the needle. You're going to put it on and you're going to latch it and pull it through. Then you're going to push that back and you're going to go to the next stitch, next needle, pull that loop out, take your long tail, and you're going to latch that. You pull a loop. So you've got a loop on your latch hook. You've got the loop that you just pulled off the needle. I've got 2 loops on that latch hook. This tail is now going to make basically really kind of 3rd loop going through those 2 loops. Does everybody see that? And I'm going to go all the way to the end of this thumb gusset.
Do you go to the opposite side of the needle?
I go to the opposite side because it gives me a little extra room that the thumb isn't real tight. You know, it makes that stitch just a little bit larger. If you were always going on that side, you know, the same size, it would really make it would still make it, as long as you were consistent with which side you went on.
And then on mine, I do the back stitch bind off around the thumb also. And I use it with like the darn
so. But I'm gonna try this, because I couldn't understand it, now that I'm seeing it, though, it looks like it might be quicker.
So you need the back stitch right off. You take that off the needles,
Yes.
and then they're off.
No, because it's sealed, it's,
I mean, before you.
no, I do the back stitch, find on the needles, and then I carry the yarn in the front. I go in through the front, because it's kind of like a loopy yarn, and then when I'm done, then I'll slide it off. So that does kind of make like a little roll at the top. The dead piece is more flat. Okay, I see, this is how you do yours, with a little roll. It ends up a roll. The bright colored one is actually. I mean, maybe it is, but she's using a latch tool, I'm using, I need a, the kitchen needle. Yes, because it's no longer live, it's closed. She's gonna take it over and just run it. Oh, yeah, I don't think I can do that. I would like to.
Okay, when I get to the last stitch, I'm gonna go through it. I'm gonna pull my tail through those two, and then I'm going to do it one more time. I've got one stitch on the latch hook. I'm gonna take my tail and pull it through so it doesn't unravel. You just have to be careful that you don't split the hairs of that tail through there, and pull it through. Now, you can either run, you have quite a few, you have the loops on here and it's kind of thick. I take off my forks and my weight with the V hook. You could run your carriage around, or I find it sometimes that it won't release. So I just take my fingers and I'm taking these stitches that I just latched hook closed off of those needles, and now I have this flap. This is gonna be your thumb. I'm gonna push one needle down on each side, making sure that the latch goes over that yarn. Now I'm going to, I'm gonna start on my left-hand side. Below where these stitches kind of started, I'm gonna find a ladder in here and I wanna pull. It doesn't matter, it could be this one. I tend to take it kind of from here, from down into here. And I'm gonna, now I've got one extra needle down on that side. I'm going to hang that ladder over that stitch. That's so I don't have a hole in the thumb gusset. Now, along the edge here, I'm going to pick up one side of that stitch. There are more, okay, I have 23 rows that I made. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 stitches to the middle of this area. These are what the purple, I have two bright purple. That's my middle part, okay, my middle of those needles. I'm gonna take and find a ladder here, a single ladder, and put it over this stitch. Now, there's more, so I'm gonna be skipping some of them. It's not, if you look at my samples going around, you'll notice it doesn't show. So you're gonna just pull and you're gonna work your way up to the middle. I'm kind of skipping one there, so, you know, a little bit of room there. And I'm gonna just work my way. And I'm working my way to where this tail ends. So I've got a little bit extra here, so I'm going to skip probably every other one here. So the top part here, where my basically just below this tail, is going onto the middle area. We're gonna overlap that middle with the other side. Now I'm gonna go to the other side. I'm gonna find a ladder in this knitting. I kind of like this one here. I'm gonna pull it over that extra knit. So this corner has 2 loops on it, 2 stitches.
Can see it, can see what you're picking up.
Do you mind? No, I'm picking up in here. Oh, on this part here?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm picking up along the edge. See this stitch here that you can kind of see? I'm picking up one side, right there,
Okay.
right there. But I'm gonna miss that one. This being black yarn, it's kind of hard to see here.
Okay.
But I'm gonna just kind of, you can feel with your hook, there it is. I've got one and it's gonna hang on. Here, you can start seeing that it's where it's the lighter color again.
Right.
See how, and I'm just picking up that one side and hanging it up there. I kind of look at this flap and say, okay, I've got to miss like every other one. You know, maybe miss a few stitches to get to the middle. It is not going to show at all. That one's close. But once you get to the top, you want the top of this flap that you had. Oh, no, see now here, I skipped too many because I need another stitch down here. So I'm going to pull, nope, that's the same one. Here's one. Okay, I skipped too many, so I'm going to come back here and I'm going to find
One of these things, it's like hard to explain than it is to do. So once you do it once or twice, then you're like, oh, okay. You know? Yeah.
So Okay, so here's my beginning of that flap, the top of that flap, and I'm going to, I have 2 stitches on the middle needle. Now, I'm going to rethread this, and I'm gonna leave a tail in the beginning here because you're gonna need something to enclose this. I'm gonna pull my carrier here. And what I'm going to do, yeah, I've got a tail in there, and I'm gonna make sure that my flaps are open. I'm gonna start putting my needles down. Okay, so I'm gonna have to go slow here. I'm gonna put my weights, I'm just putting the V hook back in. You don't need the corners, it'll wait. And I'm going to make sure that my yarn catches that first needle. So if I start about 5 needles back, where they're raised, it will start catching it. Okay, so I'm going to put the rest of my needles, making sure the flaps take this yarn, because we're going to use just kind of, that'll be, so just make sure your flaps. I tend to put my knee thing. So here in this case, I have my thumb, my 23 rows. Now I'm going to knit 30 rows of solid knitting on all 54. So this is where you can go 30, 33. Depending upon which skein of yarn you're using. So I'm going to go 30 because I'm using, this skein happens to be always short. 1, 2. Okay, this is 30, and I'm going to take my heel spring. This is where where I started the hash mark here. I'm going to pull the spring out, put it on my spring holder, because now I'm going to go back to a mock rib. And I'm going to take out every 3rd needle. So 2 in, 1 out, and I'm going to hang the stitch onto the next needle. So 2.
I did not know that piece was for your cylinder spring. I thought it was just something different.
Now this is where I call this part here my lifeline. Here, I'm gonna raise a few here.
I used it for this one. I didn't know what it was. I just thought it was just a different item. Do you have it? No, I haven't.
No, like that. Now what I'm going to do is take my needle. Oh, here it is. Okay. And I tend to use a bright colored thread or something. I usually use a yellow. Here's a piece of yellow. I had a piece here and I lost it already. And it just has to go around here once. So it's not a long piece. And starting at the hash mark, right after the hash mark, I'm going to just sew this, just kind of go around here and pick up each one of those beginning ladders. The reason I'm doing this is when I sew my hem top at the top down, you're going to know where to sew it to. If you don't have this, you're going to have to find out which is that straight row, and you'll never figure out, because you just kind of go back and forth from the ladders on the top of the finished glove to the loop, the ladder that you've just put this, I call it my lifeline, around. And this gets pulled out at the end, so it doesn't matter what it is. And then I just kind of slowly work, get my needle, keep taking up to go to the mock rib.
Would it be true that if you
Yes. That when I sew it, I'm sewing it to the correct, to the same ladder going all the way around. That's the only reason that I'm putting this yellow, what I call my lifeline.
And then, the way I do, I don't use the lifeline because I just mock rivet and then I do a backstitch bind off it at the top. So it kind of gives it a roll. If you make it a little bit longer, you can fold it back or pull it out. Because I use a thinner yarn than the Croy, because I use regular sock yarn on most of mine. If I sell them or give them, I would give like the dollar store stretchy gloves under them and then wear them over. And so they're kind of cute, but then like if you're in your office, they're like not too bold when your machines get cold, you know, because the AC is not too high. Yes.
Does anybody make these into full knits, where there's a pattern in there for doing a toe that looks like a hand knit toe where you crease? Anybody tried that?
I've not done that.
I haven't tried it, I'm just thinking it could be done.
It could be.
This gives it a really nice finished top that a lot of times, you know, if you are working in a cold office and they really don't want you wearing mittens, it doesn't look like, it looks more of a finished piece that looks a little, you know, it doesn't look like the old-fashioned rag wools. It's got a nice top to it that you could, it's just a little more professional than some of the looks out there. I you know, it's just nice, it looks like a hung hem is what it looks like when you sew clothes. There are samples going around. I do have more samples up here.
Does anybody want to see how it looks at the little yellow stitches?
Oh, yeah, because if you take it at that end, it's going to come undone. It will only stay between two of them and get it because you're actually moving into the stitches. So you have the right stitch. This one, it's trying to do live stitches together, then take it out.
Is your lifeline that 80-weight fishing line?
No, it is not. It's a piece of yarn.
Okay.
I'm just using it for contrast. Now I'm at my hash mark, I stop. Because this way, if I start and stop at my hash mark, I know exactly where I'm going to put the top of it, where the row starts when I'm done. Now I'm going to make sure that I put my heel spring, and I'm going to do 10 rows of mock rib. I'm almost done here with one. Just make sure that your latches are open. That's 1, 2, I'm going to stop just before my hash mark. Now, this here, I'm going to leave a little longer than normal because you're going to need the extra for sewing. Oh, my little scissors disappeared. Here they are. So I'm going to leave more than normal because when you start going around, you're going to leave it loose. Okay? I have some samples over here that I will show you once I start closing. So then I'm going to take waste yarn. I tend to reuse my waste yarn and just kind of line it. For anybody who wants to know, I go to the grocery store and they have in the produce section some stores use cardboard, mine uses plastic. rolls. And I asked the produce manager, would you save those for me? And each week I go in, he's got huge bags. I even finally say, please don't save me anymore. I've got enough of them. But you know what? They're really nice for winding yarn on. You know, your leftover, your scraps or the leftovers from the balls. I have one of those, you know, royal winders, not the $150 one. But you just set it at the top, you make that little cake of the leftover yarn off my wooden spools. I put it on top and I slide it off, and now it's on these. So now what I'm going to do here is just run scrap yarn. And I usually run 10 rows of scrap yarn is what I usually do, you know, give or take. Here, I'm gonna run this off the machine. Now when on separator thread, I love separator thread, and I didn't use it between these colors for some reason, but this is how separator thread works. I pull out the ends on either side, then I go in the middle here, and it just comes right out. You can separate your waste from your regular, except that I didn't do that up here. So I'll have to snip it here. I hate having little snippets of yarn, but I guess I have to today. My husband gets tired of finding trails that I leave behind.
At my house, I had to de-yarn my bathroom every couple of months, or every couple of weeks whenever I make it. Because I think I'm picking it up, but no, it's back.
Well, anyways, I can't, I'm not right. I'll have to unravel it. But here's basically how it comes off. Here's the thumb with the gusset. If you wanted to make it longer, just use more rows. It means that you're gonna catch every other one. Right here is where I hung it. And as you can see, it really doesn't show if you missed one of those ladders. There's nothing. There's no holes in. Now what I will do is I will come up here and I will pull out, you know, everybody knows how to do these down here. You know, I duplicate stitch mine when I'm tucking in my edge, you know, my ends, okay? On this one here, for the top of this, to close it off. I turn the top part inside out. I'm going to, here's my start of my scrap yarn. I'm gonna pick up that stitch with my tail on my needle. I'm gonna go from the top here of where the waste yarn is to that, here's my, what I call the lifeline. If you pull this up a little bit, you'll see that's the ladder that I need to catch. Okay, so I just caught that. I go back to the top where my scrap yarn is. And I'm going to catch the next stitch up at the top so it doesn't unravel. I already got that one there, so it's this one here. And I'm going to go down to the next yellow lifeline stitch. And I'm going to go back and forth. Well, the reason I left this longer is because you're not going to pull it tight right away, because if you pull it tight right away, it's harder to see. But after I'm done going back and forth, if I need more of this yarn, what I do see how I can see that yellow is wrapped around there? And then as I go around, this is gonna get shorter and shorter, it might run out. What I will do is I'll pull this like this, but I won't pull it real tight until I'm completely done with going all the way around, okay? And then you can pull out your scrap yarn and your lifeline, because this will then be folded over. It's really hard, but then you're gonna put the mitten on you, because if you pull it too tight, it will actually restrict the top, but you don't wanna leave it, you wanna restrict, leave it where it's not real, but you wanna give yourself some room in there, but you don't want to make it too tight. But if you put these on, the ones that I passed on around, you can kind of feel how it is, but it makes a nicer top than the roll top. That if you were in an office environment, that you can't really wear gloves, it looks nice. It'll look a little more professional. Or I have a lot of people who pick up beach glass on the beach or go out, and they don't want their fingers. Where I am, it's not real cold, but they want something, we don't accept that this year, it's been freezing. But anyways, that's my one skein Croy fingerless mittens. You can't, if you bought a couple skeins of it, you could get a match set. We don't call them twins, we call them sisters. You can make them, you're not gonna get it because the Croy repeat pattern is from here to here. On some of these patterns, you can't, unless you found two skeins that started in the right place, you'd have too much waste. So you really can't. But nobody has ever said to me, in all the pairs that I have ever made, and I sell quite a few, I will tell you, I sell them for $35. Nobody bats an eye at it. It is time consuming, but it does get faster the more that you make them. The first, when you follow it, you'll say, oh, I'm kind of lost, but you know what? It does get faster and faster. Yes.
Am I mistaken that they're right and left, correct?
You know what? No, they're exactly the same. There is no right or left. You can wear this on either hand. Great question, by the way, because I thought when I started making them, I thought, oh my gosh, what am I going to do here? I don't know how to No, because I put it on my other hand and it worked too. And I thought, oh wow, I just came up with something, because mittens are left or right.
Okay.
And in this case, it is not left or right. So that's what, if anybody, want to come on up and see, if I don't have enough samples over there, I have other samples that I show. This one here is a great Croy colorway, that's kind of neat. And they really kind of snug on your hand. The Croy is snugger, it's a little thicker, and I tried using opal, but it was too flimsy. It wasn't like it snugged your hand. And that was my opinion on it. I like this because it snugged your hand. Yes. Thank you, everybody, for coming.